All right, we're back. It's been a minute, but thanks for sticking around if you're still here after all this time. It has been a while since I posted a video on the bird. Basically, last year during the summer, well, actually, hold on, 2024, we raced that season, and then it was running like crap at the end of an event, an autocross event. Like, there was like 2 events to go in the season, so this was like third to last. And yeah, it started running like crap, like losing like half the cylinders or whatever. Didn't know what it was. And then at the same time, it started making like a ticking, like top end. It sounded like just a top end like ticking noise. And I put it on the trailer, took it home, and it started no problem and drove onto the trailer fine, other than making that top end noise. And then I got it home, and the top end noise was also bottom end noise at that point. After messing with it here, turned out it had spun all kinds of bearings. The top end part that we heard was a cam bearing, was like completely, it came out with the cam. The bottom end was completely chewed up. All the bearings were toast. So then last winter we rebuilt the engine, and yeah, one of the block was toast from where the bearing spun on the crank, and tore up the block. Probably get that machine and put an oversized bearing in it, whatever, but not whatever. It's over there now. Same with the crank that got chewed up. So the crank that we put in it was actually the crank that came in that motor, whatever it was. Came in the very first LS that we had, and we bought a second one just in case, which we needed. But that crank is the one that I tried to get the pulley off without the right pulley and jammed a socket into. Well, ended up getting the socket out of it so I could use that crank. Now that we know how to weld, we use this to get that socket out. So then, yeah, anyway, we ended up having a perfectly good crank. Put that in there, got all new bearings, cam bearings, crank bearings, rod bearings, everything. What is it? Main bearings, crank bearings, whatever they are. All the 3 sets of bearings. All those are in there. Freshened up the cylinder heads. Put the new piston rings on that we put on way back in 2020 when it was first ever started, when we took the 305 out. So okay, that got us to last season. Then everything was good. Oil pressure, everything sounded great. I had to swap back to the old alternator. The other one wasn't working either. Did all that. Now I was running fine. And then I started running like crap. I drove it twice. It died on me in the driveway. Let it cool down, and then it surprisingly started, and I was able to pull it back in. Cool. Then I drove it a little bit later, a couple weeks later, or whatever. This is last summer, the beginning of last summer. Ripping it around the block, down some of these country roads. 15 minutes of a drive in, and I'm beating on it, testing out the new brakes that we put on. And what do you know? It's like losing like half the cylinders. So I pretty much said, screw it. I'm not even going to mess with it this year. So this is being 2025 summer season race. Didn't do it at all. We ended up just doing all bike stuff. We ended up taking the T7 to South Dakota and having a sweet trip with my buddies. So I didn't even care to touch this. Didn't know what I was doing. I thought from it running like that, I thought, oh, maybe it's the O2 sensor. Turns out the LEDs on the Terminator told me the whole time from that video that I took, which I put a short up just a little bit ago today. It was the crank sensor, according to the LEDs. Now, I have not driven it yet since putting the crank sensor in like last week. But I put a crank sensor in, I put a new cam sensor in, so, you know, cross your fingers, it should be good. Now, there is a whole list of things that I've done in addition to just trying to get to run right. Oh, I did buy an O2 sensor, but I didn't put it in, so I just have a backup one. But some of the other things here, we have the Low Dollar Motorsports fuel pressure gauge, so that's cool. So now I can log fuel pressure with the Holley. Everything else was already being logged. That was the only thing I was missing. You probably noticed these bad boys. Got the camber plates on. They say to go for maximum caster, which is, this would be all the way back, but it ends up hitting the hole for the shock. So if you want to do all the way caster, we take these back off and cut the hole out bigger. So I'll just go down through the list. Let's see, we did the brakes, the big brake kit, or not kit, I made it myself. We laser cut the brackets. I think a short up on that too. Kind of hard to see because I made them black. Let's see. There we go, so LS1 brakes in there. See, that takes up like half the rotor now, and bigger rotor now too. So we've got the LS1 brakes on there. So we had to lathe the hubs down, the stock rotor hubs, lathe those down. Now that's what these rotors go over. And then we did all new Timken bearings in there. I mean, even down to the caps, everything is new. New lines. The calipers are completely torn apart, clean. You can see they are powder coated. Well, they're dirty because we did drive it a couple times. And these are the Hawks racing pads. I think these are HP Pluses. And then just cheap rotors off of Rock Auto because those get chewed up. So that's all new. Let's see, so brakes. Ooh, some exciting stuff here. Let me get the light again. Go inside the car. Now we have not driven it like this at all yet, right? So we've got the racing seat in there, which is freaking awesome looking. Just look at that. Let's freaking back it up here. Look at that. It's so sick. And it's flat on the ground. It had slider like rails, so the seat moves. Let's see here. Oh, and steering wheel. That'd be sick, but yeah, show you this. Now this was actually kind of a lot of work. But so seat moves up. Oh, that's great. Steering wheel looks sweet. Grant steering wheel. Not wood grain, but we're still tipping. Let's see. Interesting part about this seat was actually a lot more than I ever would have thought. I thought they just kind of bolt right in. They don't. I end up having to make 4 different brackets for each one, and it's locked in there. It doesn't rotate or nothing. You put multiple bolts in there and it's good. Yeah, front passenger went like that. This might be, I don't know what side that is. I haven't labeled them. Rear passenger. Oh, front driver. Okay. Oh, here we go. So that's basically what you're looking at under there. They're kind of like, they look like this. I think these ones might be squared up. Anyway, the whole point of that was to, this might be a long update video, but there's so much to go over, and I'll make a driving video after this. Yeah, so you can see these two aren't even lined up either. Yeah, none of those are lined up. They're all offset and weird. But you can see that's the original seat. That's all the, oh, come on. That is all of the stock foam that just dries up and deteriorates, and yeah. So that stuff would fly in my eyes sometimes when I was driving. It's fun. So anyway, new racing seat. So that's gonna be sweet for, obviously, for driving. And let's keep on going here. Put this back up here. Got that at the work Christmas party. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Our little prototype brackets. Go over here. Okay. Got the list. Yep, we did our truck oil change right before doing this. Oh, okay. Transmission lines. That's a good one. Let's see. Take this light with us. The transmission lines were leaking pretty badly. So we did the exhaust last time too. Now, see the transmission lines right here? So they go right by the headers. There we go. See if we can get up in there. Alright, with the car being on the ground, this is tough. Hopefully we can see up there. Anyway, that might just be better explained. That might be better explained just with my mouth. It's really not complicated to imagine. We had these straight fittings on there. Now, there's two bad things. One, these straight fittings, they came right off the side of the transmission and shot right. They pushed the lines right into the headers, so they were melting all the time. One line I did that was too long. I was supposed to go back in, cut it, shorten it, do that. The other issue, these are just standard AN lines for AN, or AN fittings for AN lines. I learned, and this was just recently when I was looking, like, why are they leaking so much? I just looked up a video on how to, because it's been so long, how to actually put fittings on the lines. And that's when I saw a video from, I think it was from Motion Raceworks, from Doug. That's when he went over the 3 different types of lines: rubber lines, AN lines, and PTFE stainless lines. Turns out I have the PTFE. See that tube in there? It's PTFE with the stainless wrapping around it. And this has the fancy silicone wrap around it. I just liked that they were black. I thought they looked sweet. And he says they're kind of lame, but whatever. This is what I went with like 6 years ago now. So then let's see. I needed to put the correct. There's PTFE line fittings. Here they are. So instead, those are like the nice like Jegs ones or whatever. Then I think I have like Earl's ones over there on the fuel lines, which is the same line, which I should also swap those out, but they don't leak. So I must have gotten the PTFE line over the internal part, but these are kind of cool. If you look, there's a barrel, I think it's called, something like that. So this goes inside of this line, or you put the ferrule on the line first, in the line first, like that, something like that. Yeah, like that. Boom. Between the stainless and the PTFE, and I just cut the silicone back to here, so whatever. And then this goes into that, and it pinches. So there's a little recess in there for the PTFE. So it actually squeezes the PTFE line between this ferrule and this. And then you tighten, you put this on first, on here. So it'll be like this. Like this, and that. And then screws in, or slips in there, screws on there. I had a heck of a time with this combination with these specific tubes and these specific fittings. Did not slip in there easily like some of the other videos, but one with the Amazon stuff, the 90-degree ones do not work for the TH400 lines and long tube headers. It will, well, it might not matter with the long tube header part actually, but that's why I ended up needing the angled ones. I think I have the 60-degree ones on there, a little bit less of an angle. So the 90, they're like this. They measure it this way. They come out like this. I put those ones on there. These ones go right into the bell housing. So you can't use the 90-degree ones if you're doing this. Don't do straight ones. Don't do the 60-degree ones. Do those. I'm sorry. Don't do the straight ones. Do not do the 90-degree ones. You need the 60-degree ones. All right. So now the transmission lines shouldn't leak. That's a big one. Also, the yellow top battery. I don't know why a $300 and whatever, $80, whatever they are, battery, most expensive battery I know of, why that was toast within 2 years that I had it. So it was within the warranty. It was a 3-year warranty. Went to AutoZone. They replaced it, no questions asked. So she's good now. But one thing I needed to do for autocrossing, for any racing, is this battery tied on. This is just off Amazon, but this thing is freaking sweet. Got these wing nuts. You do have to cut the tray. It's universal. Here's the tray. It's a universal kit. Trim is needed. Bolts it down. I think I screwed in with like self tappers. I might have even actually just bolted in like nicely, but she's in there. You can also rib nut too. I have rib nuts. But so she's in there now. Should have the relay. Yep, for the trans coolers already there. So once I just took this off just because I don't know. I'm kind of paranoid about them draining now. Yeah, so that's on the list. That was actually important. I was using like strapping metal. Just had holes down there, just strapped it and then bolted together, and it sucked. I don't know how they let me race, but thank you guys. Let's see, the other thing that we've done, transmission line. So camber bar, or camber plates and the adjustable panhard bar. So we lowered it an inch. I think I have a video on that where we lowered it. And what that does is, because of the geometry of the suspension, how it's like a scissor, it shifts the rear end over. I want to say it shifted it over. I gotta look at it. I think it shifted it over to the passenger side. I think the wheel was sticking out by like 1/4 of an inch past the fender over here, and was 1/4 of an inch inside the fender here. Yeah, that's how it was. Because I remember I'd come over here, I'm like, wow, that looks crazy. And then over here, I'm like, that looks normal. So anyway, here's your adjustable panhard bar. So you need that. Then you need these lower control arm relocators to keep the geometry how it was from the factory after you lower it. And there's multiple holes to put them in. I think that's like, if you lower it an inch, I lowered it an inch on the Hotchkiss springs and it works. So got that, and then got the upper bar thing. Can't really see it maybe. Let's see. Adjustable one. Alright, there it is. The heat shield's in the way. But that's the drop down, so you can run your exhaust all the way back and run the factory routed dual, or you can have a dual exhaust that follows the factory exhaust. So both pipes will come out of there, and then one goes over to here, one goes over to here. I think I might have put a video up on the exhaust. I just have it do straight dual exhaust. I have the UMI or BMR, whatever it is, TH400 cross member on there. It does not have the hoops like the Hooker one does that allows the exhaust to be tucked up under there. I trimmed a lot of the additional metal that was on there that really didn't need to be there. You know, just like angle iron. I just kind of cut where they had it drop down and kind of smushed the exhaust. Put the V-band clamps on there, so the exhaust is functional. It is really low, but it doesn't scrape. Like, I've had the exhaust, obviously the iterations you've seen on here, it was scraping before, like on everything. Now it's usually okay, especially on the racetrack. It never scraped even at its lowest on the autocross track. Whew, what else? So we did the exhaust. Oh, we already covered that. The last thing to cover, this is a lot. Oh, you know what? The camber plates. Yeah, so they're all the way in. And if you do positive caster and negative camber, you should get toe out. And I mean, I measured stuff, and it looked like it was toe out from the measurements. But you can see like that looks, the back tire is totally straight, like it should be, because it's solid axle. And then this one's sticking out a little bit. Same here. And you can see the camber. The specs are -2.5 to 3 degrees camber, which I think is the max you can get out of these plates. Stock, I think you're like -1.5 or something. So max those out, max the camber out as much as you can. If you want to go all the way, you can. You just have to trim out your strut tower. Or if not, just do it like this. That's still more than factory, so you're still good on that. And then that should give you your toe out. You want a 1/8 inch or a 1/16 to an 1/8 inch toe out, which means if you measure the back of the tire to the back of the tire with your wheels straight, it'll be an 1/8 inch shorter than if you measure the outside of the front tires to the out, or a place on the tires. But you know, you can just measure from here with like a, you know, put a straight edge on that. That should be out an 1/8 inch or a 1/16 inch, between that range should be out more. And yeah, so if your wheels were already lined straight before, which mine were, you shouldn't have to mess with it. I mean, just looking at it, I haven't driven it yet, obviously, but wheels straight, and those look straight. Then I think that was it. Let me just check. This is just the update video. It's gonna be a longie. Oh, one fun one. Here is a GPS, the satellite GPS antenna. That's the antenna for the GPS, because it reaches the satellite. And then just right here is the GPS speedo. I've not tested it out yet, but according to what I've seen on the forum, for this had the 700R4 in it before. I had these 2 wires coming out of here. Here we go. I actually just taped the stock thing. So I think this went to the VSS, or the vehicle speed sensor, that is in the computer, because I kept the stock wiring harness, which is why it's kind of spaghetti. Kept the stock wiring harness in it with the stock computer, but it's still getting power and everything. So it should be running the speedo, but it was missing the signals from, so one wire sends the signal from the transmission to, like, I think it might be the torque converter, which was controlled by the computer, or maybe it was the cruise control, and then the other one was for the speedometer. I'm not sure if one was torque converter lockup or cruise control. The other one is for your speedometer. So the guy on the forum was just like, yeah, just tie both of these into whichever signal wire. So I have orange here because he also said, I think it was him, one of the other forums, someone said, I think it was the same one on thirdgen.org, said our signal is 4,000 ppm, and this is like a conversion kind of thing, pulses per mile. So how many pulses from the transmission, or what the computer needs to see. So that's calibrated with the different wires. This is just the Summit GPS speedo. I don't know what it says, programmable. It didn't really program, you just, I think the programming part is what you hook it into. So this is what I got. Here's the part number. I hope it works. If not, more troubleshooting to do. But there she is. And that should be everything. This was a complete ramble. I mean, that's everything though. That's why did it spin the bearings? I mean, I don't know. I was using hurt bearings. Maybe the oil pump went out before and hurt the bearings, and all I did was slap in the Summit oil pump, which is a milling oil pump, but for the Summit price, a little bit cheaper. It was the stock or standard pressure and flow, or whatever, volume and pressure, because on milling site said, hey, these actually flow like 10 or 15% more efficiently and better. So I was like, well, I'll just do the standard one then. So I went with that one, and I think the bearings were already hurt from before. That's what stopped us in 2023's racing season. But all I did was take the pump out, slap the new pump in on the same bearings after I heard the ticking noise at the top and seeing the low oil pressure. Not to be confused with the end of 2024 season. It happened before too. But instead of taking the motor out and rebuilding it with all the bearings like I did the second time, I just put the oil pump in. So maybe that's why the second time happened. But that covers this. That's my idea for that, as far as why that happened. But that covers why it wasn't running right last season. So I didn't race last season. That explains why. Hopefully it's just the crank sensors why it wasn't running right at the end of 2024 season. But that's why I didn't do 2025. I did all this stuff in the meantime. So I'm hoping she handles like freaking awesome with the new suspension setup. Rear end is centered now, which it wasn't before. I did race on the lowered and I had my suspension offset in the back. So should be centered now. leaky trans lines are taken care of. Battery should be running right with the right crank sensors. Cam sensors in there for good measure. The big brake upgrade is going to be huge. The 2 times I did drive it, it was awesome. I was freaking locking them up in the front before they were even really that warmed up, honestly. Just barely breaking them in. And now maybe our stock speedo will work. So that would be really cool. I think that's everything. All right, thanks for watching this entirely way too long ramble.